And now it's my pleasure to offer hospitality to a man who hasn't entirely wasted his life. Singer, songwriter, author, film producer, keen gardener, and master of understatement. He once said, if you're going to be in a rock and roll band, you may as well be in the Beatles. Ladies and gentlemen, George Harrison. George, it's good to see you. You're back in the charts, so you're a happy man.
I don't know if I'm back. I've been back, but I don't know if I'm back this week. But I am a happy man.
Yeah. Did you feel the time was right to do this?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think about it. I just felt time to make a record. And so I made it. And, you know, sometimes things go right, and sometimes they don't. This time it went right.
You're attracting new fans, some of whom perhaps have never heard of the Beatles.
I think most of them haven't. Yeah. I met a few people, just at Christmas I saw some kids in, about 18-year-old in Los Angeles, and they saw me walk in a shop, and they looked at each other and said, "Oh, there's that singer," which I thought was pretty good.
Just that singer.
There's that singer, you know, music.
Yeah. You have kept yourself to yourself in recent years. This led to some wild stories about the Howard Hughes of Henley.
That's right, yeah. Well, it's the silly newspapers. I mean, they're not all silly, of course, but some of them are very silly. And because I don't go discothequing and things like that where people hang out with their cameras, so they presumed that I was Howard Hughes, with my big fingernails and Kleenex tissues and that kind of stuff. Bottles of urine all around the house. And, but I wasn't like that at all. I go out all the time, or a lot of the time, see friends, have dinner, go to parties.
Sounds all right.
I'm even more normal than, you know, normal people.
I mentioned gardening, you haven't yet, but to stroll from one end of yours would take about 3 weeks, wouldn't it? How big is it actually?
Not really, no. My garden, you can stroll around it in 10 minutes if you're power walking, which is what I sort of do these days.
So what have you got?
If you saunter, it could take half an hour. If you swagger, maybe 45 minutes.
You've got legs as well, haven't you?
Legs, yeah. I've got legs and arms and...
This is why it's southern accent. You've got legs.
Lakes, well,
yeah.
There's a bit of water, yeah. There's a sort of flows around that was built in the Victorian days. It's very nice. It was all covered in soil and broken lavatories from a building site when I bought it. It was all...
Howard Hughes did have it then, obviously. Yeah. What about your son, who is now 9, I think? Is he aware of your glorious past?
He's become aware now of the last few years, and I didn't really tell him anything about the Beatles because it was so long ago anyway. I didn't want to burden him with all that. But nevertheless, I think most kids, when they get to about 4 or 5, they see Yellow Submarine. And then he sort of twigged, and then he came up to me one day and said, "Hey, Dad, how do you play the piano lick from Hey Bulldog?" Which I thought, well, that's strange. How does he know a song like that? But it's in Yellow Submarine.
And was he impressed?
No.
Has he actually seen you perform?
Well, if you call it performing. Yeah, he came to the... I did this show, The Prince's Trust, last July. He came to that show, and I suppose you could call it performing, but after the show I said to him, well, what did you think? And he said, yeah, you were okay, Dad. Why didn't you do rock and roll music and Sweet Little 16? Johnny Be Good. So, well, actually, that's Chuck Berry.
And he's 9?
9.5 now, yeah.
Oh, that's better.
He's really into Chuck Berry, though, as you are, too. I saw you on the show with him.
Yes, didn't have long enough, I'm afraid, but it was a great guy. How long, when you did The Prince's Trust, how long had it been since you had done a live show?
Last time, well, I did one show which I happened to... I wore this suit for it. It's the first time I've worn it since the Carl Perkins show, which was a televised program for HBO. Before that, I did a tour in America in 1974, but in England I never performed since the Beatles, which was 1965 65 or something like that, 66 maybe.
You could have been very slightly terrified.
I was, yeah. It felt like I was going the electric chair. Sat there for hours waiting to go on, and very, very nervous.
But surrounded by old mates.
Fortunately, yeah. There's a lot of support from the gang, Ringo, and well, Phil Collins was playing one night, and Eric Clapton, of course, and Elton, and Midge-Ure, a lot of people.
Didn't someone suggest that you should get the sort of oldies group together?
I think that's sort of an idea that's bubbling about, maybe in Elton's mind, I don't know. It's sort of a good idea because everybody enjoys playing together.
Could call yourselves Methuselah. Be good.
Yeah.
Or not, as the case may be. Amazingly, 25 years since Beatlemania swept the world. When did you first realize it was happening to you?
The mania side of it happened, it started happening in, I think, 1963, when we started touring seriously in England, like on the big Moss Empire circuit. And then we did some tours around Europe, and I think it was because of the mania that was happening then that the Americans caught on and came over, and they did features on us in Time and Life and Newsweek. So then that sort of set us up for the trip to the USA in 1964.
And when did the excitement wear off?
Well, it sort of wears off and it comes back again. And like just recently, I feel quite excited to be alive, regardless of whether I'm making a record or promoting my record. Buy my album now, right? You know, quite apart from that. But I think for me, the mania got to me in 1966, and around that time I got a bit tired of what they call the adulation. I'm still not that keen on that side of it. It's nice to be popular, it's nice to be loved, but it's not so nice to be chased around and on the front page of the paper every day of your life with, you know, people climbing over the wall all day long.
And the endless round, of course, of meeting people, dignitaries, etc.
Yes, well, we did tend to meet most of the dignitaries of the world.
So were you bored by all that?
Well, sometimes it was boring, sometimes we just make fun of them, or you have our own little in-jokes, you know, to get through.
We noticed that. I mean, you did send them up. I mean, looking back, do you think that you were cheeky, so-and-sos? Cocky?
Oh, we were very cheeky, yeah. We had to be, really. It's like a, you know, survival kind of thing.